Vamos falar de blues. Olá, eu sou o Buda e vamos falar de blues. Hoje tenho comigo Michael Oren, um baterista americano que está a viver em Portugal já há alguns anos e que tem uma carreira inacreditável. Hi Michael, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Really great. So, who is Michael Oren?
I guess simply professional drummer, educator. Professional, as in the sense that it is my life, my career, and they're not separated. I mean, my career is my life.
Yeah, and your life is your career.
Life is my career. So from the time for a really long time, I've been involved in both education and music. For now going on over 50 years. So I've been playing since the age of 8. No, I'm 66. So I started playing drums at the age of 8.
You're from 49,
50
right?
Actually, 1950. It's easy to remember. So I started playing drums at the age of 8. I started, teaching as a teenager, and of course played. And in my 20s. I made pretty much a conscious decision to put the focus on being an educator and not so much worrying about my artistic career. I knew that I would play, but that wasn't my primary objective.
And why is that? Why have you choose?
I think it was some advice of my teachers when I was young. They felt that it's a way to give something back. It's of course if you want to stay in town. I'm from New York, so living in New York City. If you want to play in town and you don't want to spend your life on the road, sometimes you want to augment what you do, and especially in that, like I said, the sense of giving something back to the music community. So. I had a balanced career. I wouldn't say basically it was through all the years I lived and worked in New York. It was balanced between teaching and playing.
Yeah,
and you learn a lot by teaching, and you give a lot by teaching. So, and sometimes I wonder if that was the right decision. Although most of the time,
we always wonder.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you say, okay, I could have, woulda, shoulda done certain things. Probably, it just would have made me a more visible artist. I don't know if it would have made me a better one, but it would have made me more visible. And sometimes, visibility puts you in traps. I think I've been able to grow and develop and change, especially play lots of styles. Often. Careers you get pigeonholed because it's what you play and people call you for that. So even if you work on, I consider myself a multi-stylist. So as you work and develop your skills in different styles, often you don't really have the chance to play them as often as you might like. And of course, when you don't play as much that style, you don't develop the same insights how to play. I believe that. You can do it, but there's doing it, and then there's doing it.
There's no mais ou menos.
In that sense, yes. So, I've been fortunate that I've been able to play so many styles, and
you've played blues with.
Played a lot of blues. I played more blues in the 80s and into the 90s. Actually, I played lots of blues. With a number of artists. There was in that, in the 80s there was this blues revival in America generated by Stevie Ray Vaughan, because before that there was always blues bands, but it wasn't
It wasn't
as popular. It wasn't mainstream. There was no the guy, Bad to the Bone. Who was that guy's name? I can't remember.
I never remembered, but it's one song.
Yeah, guy. one song guy. George Thorogood.
Oh yeah,
George Thorogood Destroyer. So there were a number of bands, artists. We talked last night about Robert Cray. In the 80s was a very fertile period of blues, and it attracted a much larger audience. There's always been blues. I mean, American music is blues.
It was modern.
Modern,
it was
modern
a
take.
twist. A twist
of course. Yeah,
it
was
into Muddy's blues.
Yeah, some people say it was
to the 50s.
rock blues. I mean, Stevie Ray Vaughan was a rock blues artist, but he was.
Yeah, but
he cut his teeth on real blues.
Yeah.
I mean, all
Robert
these guys,
Cray.
and Robert Cray, same way. You find a modern approach, set something that's personal, and.
More song oriented, probably.
In some ways, or just of course, production changed. Many things, but so there was a large opportunity. I mean, my sensibility has always been, you want to play and work. So there was a period where I played lots of country music. I liked country music. At one point, I considered moving to Nashville. People, when they look at me, think I'm crazy, but I'm a groove guy. So in the 70s, I really considered strongly to move to Nashville.
And was it Nashville as strong as it is today?
It was, of course. Nashville's always been strong. I mean, it was the beginnings of... Nashville's always been strong in real country. And then, of course, the crossover as became country rock and diversification in Nashville itself. So
because you have all in Nashville nowadays.
Yes,
all
but you always did.
genres.
Yeah, but it was always in the 70s. Even at that point in time, it was still. I mean, because when you think about Western swing, there was always a jazz element in country music. So there was Bob Wills and many of the great 50s 40s artists were swinging guys. In they're not jazzers, but. They swing. But they swing, but I decided against that. I didn't do that. I came to my senses and decided.
You prefer to stay in New York.
I prefer to stay in the North. And then in the 80s, kind of gigs kind of came around, and I started working with Papa Chubby, who was a blues artist, and Bobby Radcliffe, who's one of the great blues artists. He's probably not so well known, but if you don't know Bobby Radcliff, you ought to.
I know him.
I mean, great artist. We had great gigs. He was a really wonderful guy. That was really great. And then I worked I was in the house band of Manny's Car Wash. Manny's Car Wash was one of the main, at one time, the main small jazz clubs, blues clubs in the city. It was on the east side. It was great to be in a house band. So
what do you mean about a house band?
Basically, we back up. We back up lots of guys. I mean, I can't. As I thought about it, I can't even remember half the people. I mean, sometimes I sit with musician friends, and we would talk about. You remember that gig? And I'd say, I didn't play that gig. He said, yes, you did. and then I said, do you remember that gig? And he said, I wasn't on that gig. So many names just come and go for me, but that was a great opportunity to play.
When you mean backing up, is playing with the artist, not as a opening act.
No, playing with the artist,
being the band,
or sometimes some weeks it was a weekly gig. Sometimes you would open the jam, and then it was a jam, and sometimes when you're a house band, you did that too.
Okay.
So
that's a great job.
That was great.
It's close to teaching, right? Because you have to play with a lot of
guys. Yeah, it was great.
Different approaches
and you had to be on your toes. You had to understand what was happening. Had to take direction real quick. So that was a great thing. And then I got an opportunity to play with Charles Brown and Chuck Berry, and that was. I mean, I think Charles Brown was a real special artist for me. To play with.
And you played with Chuck Berry. Was it
always
a New York show?
No. We
because he's known for not having a band. And
there was a period when he did not have a band. In fact, he had just come out with the movie. I guess he turned 60. That movie he did about that Steve Jordan was part of that band. Mm-hmm. I can't remember who else. I think it was actually out of the labor of love of one of the Stones. He was in that band. He put that band together. Keith Richards, I think, put that band together for Chuck Berry, and that was Steve Jordan. It was a great band. And have you never seen that movie?
I don't think so, but
it's a great movie.
I have to see it.
You have to see it. It's a great movie. The band is killing.
It's a documentary
about his 60th birthday. He comes back to St. Louis. That's his home, and it's his 60th birthday party in the Fox Theater or something like that. It's a great rock and roll documentary. Great, really great.
Great advice.
And he was in really good form. So I worked with him right about that period of time, and I've talked to many musicians who had the same experience. Basically, the first time you go, it was in Newport Beach, Virginia. So we must have drove. It's not that far. I don't think we flew. I don't really remember. I mean, sometimes, you know, if you remember, you couldn't have been there. Grace Slick said that.
In the bucket of the shows.
Yeah, that's it. It's just another, yeah. But it was a special one because, you know, I mean, it's Chuck Berry. So we must have gone the night before or something like that. And it was like an outdoor concert, you know, 30,000 people kind of concert. And we do the sound check. You don't meet Chuck Berry. You go into a dressing room, you know, because outdoors it was like, you know, a big, you know, like a recreational vehicle. That's, you know, they had lots of recreational vehicles that are big, and that's basically, you know, you hang out, and then finally somebody says, Mr. Berry will come in and wants to meet the band, yeah. So Chuck Berry walks in, you know, it's fucking Chuck Berry, man. It's like, you know, it's deep. And I remember I was sitting on like on the well of where the motor is in one of these, you know, motorhomes. And I was kind of like there, and we're all sitting around, and he kind of looks at everybody, and looks at me, and he goes, "You're the drummer, right?" And I talked to other drummers, and he said, "Man, he did that all the time. He just knew who the drummer was." And he basically said, "Look, man, you can do this gig with a bass drum and a snare drum." He didn't mean you should do it, but that's the gig, you know, because he didn't know us from a hole in the wall. It was just another pickup band.
Yeah,
just another pickup band. And there was a second guitar player who he told him to be cool. He told the whole band he didn't his ending riffs, you know, Chuck Berry endings. He wanted to play them by himself. And I asked him, you know, do you want any kind of, you know, tattoos at the end, you know, like fills and stuff. He said, yeah, if you want to do that. Just, he was really laid back. No set list. He just would kick off the tunes. Now, we happened to know the tunes, so of course we hadn't got to do the gig. But after the first tune, the bass player had tagged the ending, you know, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, one of those endings, yeah. And I see Chuck Berry walking over to the bass player and just kind of, you know, put his arm around it, and whisper to him. And I couldn't hear it because on a big stage, yeah. Everything seemed cool. And the end of the gig, I said, "What did Chuck Berry say to you?" I don't remember his name. Steve. Yeah, I said, "What did Chuck Berry say to you, Steve?" And he said, "Man, Chuck Berry said to me, 'Hey, motherfucker, I told you don't play the fucking endings.'" You know, that's
cool.
That's really cool. He didn't take it any other endings at the end of the rest of the gig.
Of course.
You know, it was a perfect show. Chuck Berry was beautiful. I mean, he did the moonwalk. He was great. I mean, what impressed me, though, you know, I mean, besides his, of course, his ability to control a crowd, but it was his rhythm guitar playing that blew my mind.
Yeah, because those guys were crafted in way before gimmicks.
Yeah, man, his rhythm playing was killing. His leads are Chuck Berry leads, you know. In fact, he gave some of the leads to the other guitar player, but I mean, his rhythm playing, because he would sometimes, you know, just step back and let the band, and he would just like play rhythm. It was killing. So that was wonderful.
Great. What's your blues top 5? I mean, song-wise.
Artists?
Songs.
Oh,
so for if you have to choose 5 songs,
5 songs to go on a desert island with.
Not the ones that you love the most, but the ones you think are. If you go to an alien and you have to say this is the blues, and you have 5 songs, which were the ones that you choose?
That's really tough. That's really tough. Let me think for a second. Not in any specific order. About, you know, 1 to 5.
5.
I guess I really love Street Walking Woman and T-Bone Walker. I really dig, a lot of it's because of feel, of course, the drummer's attitude, is Waiting on You by B.B. King. Pretty much anything by Howlin' Wolf.
You're more a Howlin' Wolf or a Muddy Waters guy?
They're equal, but there's something about Howlin' Wolf that's like raw, even more raw than Muddy in some ways.
Muddy was more polite.
And of course, I mean, you know, anything that Fred Beatle plays on is or Sam Lay. I mean, those guys were just, you know, killing. And let's think what else. Crazy for You. Don't. What's that? That's a great tune. Do you notice? I think that's I think it's a Muddy tune, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. You know the tune. It's a great arrangement.
Yeah,
Willie Dixon. It's great. And actually, we were last night. We were talking about Mojo. Mojo was not written by Willie Dixon. By
you search it.
Because something made me think. Maybe that's not right. And it was a guy like somebody read somebody. Now I can't remember because his name I didn't really recognize. I think it was like a one-hit wonder guy.
Yeah.
But
and probably it wasn't even his.
No, somebody
recording that made it.
No, that's right. That's exactly right.
The most famous is Muddy's version.
Yeah, but other people had covered it.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. So I guess you have to say Hoochie Coochie Man. How could you not include Hoochie Coochie Man in the mix? And I really dig Junior Wells and Buddy Guy. So Snatch It Back.
Okay.
I think that's 5.
Yeah,
I'm missing. There's 1,000.
Of course, and that's why
I didn't include any. And I went to old style blues. I didn't include any of more modern, more rock blues. I didn't. There are lots of great tunes.
Okay, and do you remember your first contact with the blues when you were first exposed?
Yeah, I'm not so sure I knew it was the blues. Of course, one of my first records my teacher had my parents buy for me was "Blowing the Blues Away" by Horace Silver. So, I think as Americans I can remember listening to Robert Johnson. My family was classically oriented. My mother was a piano player, so there wasn't a lot of jazz, whatever jazz and blues and rock I brought into the house. It's not something that my parents listened to. My dad didn't listen to any music. He played the kazoo, that kind of vibe.
Polka.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't that bad, but my mother was a classical pianist, and my grandmother, her mother, was a ragtime pianist. So I can remember as a little kid sitting under the piano and listening to my grandmother play ragtime. So that's a vivid memory. But I think, and many of drummers of my age would probably tell you, "House of the Rising Sun" by Eric Burdon and the Animals.
Okay.
Probably, maybe that was the first time so it's like 1964. I think that's when it came out, and so I was maybe 14. I've been playing a number of years. I remember playing C Jam blues in a elementary school big band. I understood the blues, in a sense, but it wasn't like it was only later that I started, as a teenager, that I was getting hip to Lead Belly, and like I said, I already listened to Robert Johnson. But
okay. But the first time you really
understood it?
You really...
I still try to understand it.
No, you really got. Oh, this is the blues. This touches me.
I can't say that's what happened. To me, music was always. I always had an emotional response to the music, so it wasn't no matter what genre. It was. Yeah, I grew up listening to so much music, playing. I was playing Beatle tunes in 1963. I was playing Rolling Stones tunes. So the Stones were, more blues oriented than, but I didn't, at the time, I wasn't researching, who the Stones were stealing their shit from. So, but, I knew the Beatles were not so bluesy, and the Stones were, that I knew. But I think I came into the blues through jazz. Okay. And then through rock and roll. Yeah, it's like I say.
You got it backwards.
I got that. Yeah, I got it. Well, or some.
Usually
the other way.
Go to
first, because you would have to say that the blues form influenced jazz, not the other way around. So, I think that would be true.
And is it, for a drummer, in a drummer's perspective, is it jazz? more complex than blues? It's harder
depends on
than
the kind
blues?
depends on the kind of jazz. You know, it depends on the complexity of the music you're playing. I mean, if you were playing with you know, in an organ trio, you might be playing really quite open, simplified groove. You're not playing very complex rhythms. You're just laying it in. You know, so I think you know, I think it depends on in the context of jazz. I always believe you don't want to overplay. So you know, it's a matter of taste. But I don't know by itself, jazz can be much more rhythmically complex, where blues is less rhythmically complex from the drummer side. But when you listen to Mitch Mitchell play with Hendrix, he had a much more complex
jazzier.
He had a jazz. That's exactly why I called it a jazzier approach. Bonham had more of a you know, more of a bellow, you know, a more open approach to his blues playing. You know, to me, both equally were attractive.
Yeah, because from the harmonic instrument point of view, jazz is a lot more complex than blues, because you have a lot to go and
unless
a lot
you're playing,
of scales
but unless you're playing in the jazz context, the blues.
Yeah, of course. But as Andrew said, blues is really easy to play and really hard to feel. Really difficult to feel.
Yeah, well,
it's so simple.
I think it's all
really
about the emotional.
It
is all about the emotional component. I think what's missing in many blues bands is there's no dynamics, and the great blues bands have great dynamics. It's built into the music, and I think also, I mean, you know, I never saw Muddy Waters, but Bobby Radcliffe, we used to go to Chicago and sit, you know, in a club and watch him play, and he said, man, the volume of that band was really low. Those guys didn't play loud. But they had this incredible dynamic range as they played. So it's interesting, you know.
Great.
So I think the emotional component I developed not because of blues. I was just attracted to the emotional component of being a drummer, from listening to Sinatra to like I say, to listening to Louis Hayes in Blowing the Blues Away of Horace Silver. I mean, I think your earliest. You play along with records, so you gravitate.
Yeah, of course.
You gravitate to that on a subliminal level. Nobody had to tell me to play with feeling. I just had that. That was
it's music.
It's music. Yeah. There was no other way to play. I mean, I don't understand how else you can play. But people are who they are. You got to play music honestly, and if you don't have the same emotional commitment, but you love to play, then of course you're going to sound differently than some guy who comes and tears it up.
Of course. And who's your blues artist, your favorite blues artist, if you had to choose one?
Yeah, just one. That's a really tough one also. You know, actually, I think it's T-Bone Walker. I just like that, you know, because that's jump swing. So it reaches me on a late, you know, it's late 40s into the early 50s, and that was the transition from jazz, swing jazz, big band swing jazz, into what eventually becomes rock and roll. And so he's an important the band's feel, you know, that just shuffles that just are just killing me, and great arrangements, you know.
Yeah,
great arrangements,
and so. Really kind of funky too, right?
Yeah,
he goes into a lot,
and, you know,
of
and of course, and his licks. I mean, there wouldn't be Chuck Berry without T-Bone Walker. I mean, everybody stole everything from him, really. I mean, I don't know who else, because the only other people you could consider would be like. The guitar player,
Hubert Slim,
or even before, the guys that first started playing electric guitar. The guy with Benny Goodman, can't think of his name. I should be able to think of his name. Man,
I don't know it too.
No, you do know it.
I failed that.
I failed that day.
That class.
I just can't.
But even Wes Montgomery had.
But this later. We're talking about the first electric guitar player in jazz. Oh, man, how come I can't think of his name? Okay, people. Sometimes
Googling.
Google it. If we had a moment, we could Google it right now. No, we'll Google it later for sure. You know, he's and there was blues in there playing with Goodman. You know, so.
Yeah, blues and jazz, especially in the early
in the 30s, in the 20s, it was a merger. Blues was the form.
Yeah.
So you know, when you listen to New Orleans music,
and you then change the beat. It's almost the rhythmic parts that are different. The feel in the approach.
That's what I'm saying. So it's somebody like T-Bone Walker for me merged that, got into R&B. I mean, I loved some of all the James Brown instrumental shit. That's like just like killing. You know, that period of James Brown.
And from the living blues, who would you choose as your favorite one?
Now?
From the ones that are still alive.
Oh, still alive? Not that many.
That narrows it
really
a lot.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, and actually somebody else who I really dug was Albert King. There was something about Albert King that was like really cool. You know, so
it's one of my, believe it or not, it's one of my latest
influences,
latest discoveries. I'm almost ashamed of saying it,
okay.
But I found it 2 or 3 years ago, and this is me.
I guess, you know, living is a Buddy Guy.
Yeah,
for me,
it's the closest to the old guys.
To the old guys. So it would have to be Buddy Guy.
Yeah,
of course.
But Albert King was stolen by everyone that played electric blues.
Yes.
Hendrix, Stevie Ray.
Yes. All
the
he was really
the hot shots, because it was really a lot more technical than his predecessors, right? He played it,
and he had
special licks and feel, and
he was great. Albert King's great, and great songs.
Amazing songs.
So Buddy Guy is my living choice. Buddy Guy must be now what, 80s, late 70s. He's still playing. He still has his club in Chicago, I believe.
Yeah. I think he was. It's probably 82 or 79.
I guess, you know, there were lots of.
BB was 91
when he died,
I think.
Was that the number of his kids he had?
Not known to mankind.
He had a lot of kids. You know, I guess if Ray Charles was still alive, I'd have to say, you know, Ray Charles.
Yeah, he's not a total blues
artist.
No,
of course not. He's an eclectic...
as you are used to, but he's a blues artist.
He's a blues artist.
No, there's blues all over his songs. Even he don't use the blues form.
Yeah. So that's the thing, you know, where do the lines cross, of course, or, you know, if you listen to Bessie Smith, she's a blues singer. But if you listen to Ella Fitzgerald, you don't think she's a jazz singer, but she sure has the blues as is Billie Holiday. So if you're not singing a blues tune, does that say that you don't have the same impact, emotional commitment?
I think it comes from
it is the most. That's the thing. I mean, that's why people are affected by the blues. It's the you know, you basically take your heart and you show it, put it out on the table.
And this leads us to the next question: what is the blues to you?
I think that's it. Well, on an academic level, it's a form. It no longer it used to be. You know, specifically, some people would say, well, it's slow and it's sad. That's not true. We know that. So, to me, it's a sense of rhythmic playfulness. It's this. I mean, I believe all music, at least the way I approach music, I have the same commitment. I have no different commitment if I play rock that has no blues influence. If I'm playing jazz, or I'm playing straight up blues, I think what the pocket is the pocket. You may have to shift it a little bit. You know, I always love playing slow 12/8 grooves, and you know, there's that we talked earlier. I mean, you can play blues as a drummer, just playing the groove with no embellishment, or you can really push the music with lots of fills and lots of rhythmic embellishment.
Yeah, the Buddy Miles approach and the Mitch Mitchell approach.
Yeah, or even
but I'm saying with Hendrix, that's the
two
worlds.
Yeah, those are two worlds, and and especially being a session drummer in New York is that you realize more often than not, less is more. So guys would like listening to Jim Keltner or Jim Gordon, those two guys influenced me. I even it is an interesting story. When you think about Al Jackson Jr. I mean, with Stax, which is rhythm and blues. But he had this incredible sound and incredible feel. So even when you're a professional drummer and you hear something on the radio, you go, man. And you go back home and you say, okay, maybe I can put this a little bit further back in the beat. Maybe I can, augment something a different way. No matter whatever level you're at, you're gonna hear things that you could have done or didn't do in the last session. You did, and you say, man, I'm gonna try to use that in the next one. So I just think that it's that emotional component in the music, and how you deal with less notes or more notes is based on the arrangement and based on the artist's need and based on what you think is right at that moment to push it somewhere else. Because sometimes if you don't play something, that can be as deadly as overplaying.
Yeah, of course.
So you gotta suss out the situation, and I think we know that there can be a different approach behind vocal music than instrumental music. So if you're playing instrumental blues, you have different options, more space to play.
Yeah,
or not.
Yeah, it depends.
But of course, when it's vocals, you got to stay away. I mean, I think you do. I mean, I know you do. So it's best to stay.
It's best to.
I think that's one of the great jazz drummers is Roy Haynes, and Roy Haynes spent a good time playing behind singers in the late '50s. He played behind lots of singers, Dinah Washington, and he played a lot behind lots of artists. So
and that's probably why he's so musical. So,
that's what I think.
Yeah,
I think it's just like when the first time you have to sing a tune while playing drums, you realize, hey, not that it's technically harder, because it is, but you realize that just playing the thing simple gets the lyric across. You're not even getting in the way.
I even think that's why almost all bluesmen are singers and players, usually guitar players or piano, because you can do the call and response. You have to do it because you are singing. You won't be playing on top of the singer because you are the singer.
I think
and that's true. One thing I found out when I started playing and singing. You leave space for yourself.
You have to.
You have two different musicians even if in one mind.
Yes, and even if technically you can't do it, you realize that even if you could do it technically, it doesn't make much sense. You're jamming yourself, So.
And if you can hear your voice, you back up the guitar. If you balance things really, really more than if you are just the guitar player or just the singer.
Yeah, but even many musicians that I've met, the ones who understand space and understand their role in the music, even if they're not and they're not the singer in the band, they take the same approach.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but being both really makes you
aware of it. Yeah. I mean, I found out from singing background in band or singing lead songs in bands. So I did that when I was young.
You sang too?
Yeah, when I was young, and then stopped doing it. But I think what was great when I was growing up, everything was possible. Nobody put any kind of there were no barriers. It was you played everything, and when things went to a certain place, if you were lucky, then that's what you did for a while, and then that one thing ended. And if you were versatile, you did something else.
Sure.
There was so much more opportunity, and we hope that one day comes back again, where there's live music is respected and appreciated in a way that's kind of gotten lost. I think part of it because of all the diversions. I mean, I believe sadly that music has taken a back burner to not even other art forms, to other things.
Yeah.
People do other things. Music is not as important as it once was in the culture, and that's to me, of course, as a musician, it's sad. And I think.
But don't you find it resurrecting? Don't you?
I hope in places. I'm not convinced that it's totally resurrecting worldwide. Obviously, it's not in terms of record sales.
Oh no!
Everything has changed. So
but that's just the mean. The records have less than 100 years old.
Right.
There was music way before.
But I don't know if there is actively there's less clubs, so I think there's less places to play. So that is not a good sign.
Of course.
And that's the economics of clubs. And I think people just don't go out and like they once did, where it was if you wanted to go for a drink, you expected to see a good band. A good band.
Yeah.
Now, most of the time you go out and you expect to see a bad band.
I get you.
Unfortunately, you don't hope to do, but most of the time, I don't know why that is. I'm not sure why that's happening. Part maybe is because
there's less money.
Less money, so there's less professionals playing, unfortunately, and of course, the club owners only really care of how many people get stuff through the door into the cash register, and they're not thinking about the quality of the music. So I think we have to make an attempt to educate the younger generation to the wonderful of hearing great music, because it's out there, and you don't see it on TV. When was the last time you saw a great artist in any style on Portuguese TV?
Yeah,
it doesn't exist anymore.
It
doesn't exist. Yeah. So what are you getting a diet of? You're getting a diet of Portugal Got Talent, or any name of the same thing. And of course, maybe one person in that show has talent, but what is the rest of the year seeing? It's the Gong Show. You know what the Gong Show was? Yeah. So, and that's really bad.
And especially no one lives that shows having a career. They bury themselves being the winners of that show. That's the only thing they have to say.
But basically, because they've never paid any dues. So you haven't earned any right, and then people believe that is good. That's not good. Occasionally you hear somebody with talent. There's no doubt. Thank God. Sometimes they don't win.
Yeah,
because usually other issues. Yeah, but you're right about the reality of most people. It dies right there, and this is internationally because that show has been syndicated.
Yeah, of course, it's the same show all over. But don't you find that musicians also have an important role as viewers, not only as musicians?
Yeah, I also think
because I never see musicians watching other musicians shows.
It used to be that way. And when there were more clubs and you were working, you would try to catch. When you took a break, you would go. Because remember, in the days when I grew up, you were playing a minimum of 2 sets a night, or sometimes it was 4 sets, sometimes it was 6 sets. So when you were off, there was always another club down the street, and you would go. Either friends or not, you go hear great bands. Yeah. You'd always check that out. So.
Don't you find that's really important to?
Do I? Yeah, I think it's
check other what other musicians are doing.
It's really, really important.
Not for competition, but for
be
learning,
learning, be inspired, and see what is in people's heads. Sure, I think we need more of that, and I believe that so much of the craft is not appreciated. So that's not a good thing, and I think there's just lots of. We know that it's really hard to play original music, and have somebody pay you for that until somebody thinks they can make real money out of the original music. So you don't see as many original bands. Most original bands can't play in clubs anymore.
Yeah,
you got to be a cover band. And unfortunately, you got to be a cover band that's trying to sound like the band. It's one thing to cover tunes and do your own thing. It's the other thing, which is kind of depressing. And so, I don't see why would anybody want to go out to see a Pink Floyd cover band? I don't get that. So.
I totally agree with you.
So, and the club owners get it because they're in it for the money, and I understand that. Of course, you would just hope that they would open up their doors. That twice a week they would try to with some of that money promote really high level music, so people could go to a club and hear good really good bands, only good bands.
But I think people really relate to good music, even if they are not musicians.
I don't think they getting to hear it.
Yeah.
I think part of the blame is musicians.
And there's money. There's also money in really good music. You don't have to play shitty music to have an audience. That's what I'm saying.
No, I don't think so either.
People relate to good music
but,
too.
But the audience has decreased because of their diversion to go to other things. And I think that part of musicians are to blame because they didn't keep the standards up for themselves. They took,
you took it for granted.
They took it for granted. That's part. And of course, DJs didn't help. And in the States, three things basically killed or hurt the music business. One, when they changed the drinking age from 18 to 21. That's a prime age of people to go out. So you're losing, lots of people. That's in America still the case. Two was the promotion of karaoke. Anybody can be a singer. Anybody, and the jam where anybody could play. Those three things have really hurt music. Most people don't want to go to a jam because they hear bad music. There were good jams, but they don't normally hear that.
Yeah.
And people coming to jams expect to play when they shouldn't be playing because they don't know how to play. So in the old days, to play in a jam, the jam was for professional musicians to play in an informal setting with each other when they never got a chance to do that. It wasn't to bring amateurs up on the bandstand. It was only to bring young musicians or unknown guys who, had some in. You had to be asked to come up on the bandstand. That was an honor to be in a jam. That was a moment of can you cut it? But you already had to have somebody vouch for you. That doesn't exist anymore. I mean, basically, I've been playing six weeks, and okay, I'm going to the jam. I'm going to play. How many people have you seen like that?
Yeah.
And that hurts the music. I think that has to hurt your audience. So I think the two things that should be done is more diversification of music, and all clubs should make sure that they're hiring professional guys who, or really, you can be professional and be terrible, but be playing
good
but
bands,
they should be good bands playing good music, man. Anytime I hear a good band, whatever the style is, I'm happy.
Yeah,
it makes me leave happy. And in Portugal, a lot of times there's metal bands. I've heard some good metal bands.
Yeah, they are
they're playing like blues. They're going for it.
They are the ones that do the craft. Better than anyone else.
Somebody others. Yeah,
because they are really committed to the. And that's a great point, because both as an audience and as a musician, not only the metal guys, there are musicians go to see other metal bands.
They support each other.
They support it.
It's a community, and I think we need more of that in all styles.
I've never thought about it that way, but I always say that Braga has a real amazing metal scene.
Yeah,
a lot of great bands, and a lot of
has many great bands, and I've seen some really great bands in Lisbon.
And they really do a lot for each other. They don't compete. They help each other.
If you're a great band, there's nothing to compete. You're a great band.
Yeah.
You should be generous about it. You're lucky that you're a great band. You put together X amount of guys who think like one. That's a special thing. Not all bands can find that. Very often it's one guy who's special, surrounded by X number of guys who are supporting him. But when you find a band where you get 6 guys who are all play, but they're all playing for the same goal. I mean, that's usually beautiful music.
And how do you see the blues scene in this century?
Here in Portugal?
Whatever.
Or anywhere.
How do you find blues health?
Well, I know from the States, talking to friends, I mean, it's really difficult. I mean, you could play in New York when I was there even into early 2000 before I left. But even that was starting to drop off, is that you could be working 27 out of 30, 31 days a week playing in clubs and making a good living. That doesn't exist anymore. So is the health of the blues not so good on that level?
And on the artistic level, on the music level, not on the gig level.
No, I think there's always young guys come up playing the blues. I've seen, but there's also some people who are just not so good, and they're still. You know, there's always the young, new, latest guitar player, whoever that is. I don't know who the latest one is, but there always is some young kid. You know, when I see on YouTube or somebody sends me something, you know, like a 12-year-old kid from like Sweden. Come on, man. Okay, he can play and he can sing, but he doesn't really get it. So it's not going to relate. I don't relate to it. I listen to it, and it's just, you know, it's a surface. If you understand music or any young prodigy, it's rare that I've seen a young prodigy who emotionally got it. Technically, he got it. It's pretty amazing. Even as a young guy that Herbie Hancock promotes. But it's not, for me, why would I listen to that? It's not good. It's okay. Is it good for a 12-year-old? Yeah. But that's it. It's good for a 12-year-old. It ain't Mozart.
Yeah.
And those guys are rare. So, you know, I don't know who the latest young kid is. I don't know. But I'm always I'm always amazed that there are still blues festivals in Portugal. There are.
And they are being more and more each time.
I think it's great. I mean, I would think this would be a country that would like the blues. It has its own blues.
Yeah, but I think the blues has left the U.S. a long time ago. It's as international as it could be, because,
like I said, the '80s was the '80s was
everyone.
The 80s was the peak of commercial blues, where you actually could hear blues on the radio.
Yeah,
on rock radio, because that's commercial radio. So I don't think you can hear that anymore.
And what's your advice, both as a listener and both as a musician, for a guy? So this is a two question in one. For a guy that wants to enter the blues world, wants to know more about blues.
Learn your instrument and go back to the roots and check out the roots. But learn your craft. First and foremost, learn your craft.
And as a listener,
listen to as much artist as many artists as you can. You know, I mean, that's easy to obtain. Just, you know, I mean, just get a list, the 500 greatest blues artists, and go listen to them. That's what I would do. Yeah. And then your tastes can kind of be formed in the kind of blues that you like, because there are different, we know, subgenres of blues. You know, you should be informed about it, and I don't know if you have to remember the names, but you can remember what listening, how the listening of a specific artist affected you emotionally. You know, so.
Okay.
Cool.
So, thanks a lot, Michael.
My pleasure. To the blues.
For this class.
I hope, yeah, we got to remember the name of the
guitar for Benny Goodman.
I mean, when you know his name. I can't believe I can't remember his name, but.
I'll put it on the interview.
No, I'm going to do it when we go back, because they got the internet in Toca.
Ok.
First thing, but we should wrap it up.
Ok. Foi a entrevista com o Michael. Voltem a ver a entrevista, anotem os nomes que o Michael disse e ouçam as histórias. Há montes de informação altamente interessante.
Just one short story. I was playing with an artist named Big Ed, who has this running blues jam in New York, probably for the longest, and he's a really good blues player. And we played some gig, and this was right at the time of when Mandela became president of South Africa. And we got invited. We were the first not really famous blues band to play. And we played a club, and the club was called Blues to Africa, which I thought was really ironic, you know, because it should have been the reverse.
Africa to blues.
Exactly. Yeah. So we spent 3 weeks playing in a club. That was great, man. People loved it. It was really interesting, and it was a time, you know, that was a really hopeful time, and because Mandela had not become president. It was an interesting time.
High hope.
But I was thinking of this, you know, Blues to Africa. No, it's the reverse. Africa brings the blues. Cheers.
Okay.
Vamos falar de blues.